Alrighty, here I have my Whitneyville 22 short, and you can see it's unloaded. I checked it before I started making this video. What I want to test fire it because I've never test fired this. It is missing a couple parts. It's missing the cylinder latch to rotate the cylinder, and it's also missing, I think, a spring to where the safety latch comes down off the cylinder and then goes back up. But it's kind of tight. As you can see, it just moves a little bit. All these older top brakes and derringers and everything like that is not tight at all. They're actually loose. But this one's kind of, it's pretty tight. Now I can move it freely. See, I can move it freely with my fingers here. But then it goes back to the tight with the safety latch, because the safety latch doesn't have the spring, so that when you cock the hammer, it doesn't bring the safety latch down. So now there is a double cock, on the hammer here. So when you cock it back once like that, that's when you're able to free up the cylinder and then spin the cylinder. But since it doesn't have the spring, it's not doing it. So you have to do it manually, which is not good for the firearm, but these parts are not available for the Whitneyville 22. Kind of useless, but what I have here, I have, well, actually, these here, the Aquilas. They're like CB caps. There's no powder in them. They're just primed. These things you can't hear at all with a rifle. When you put them in a 22 rifle, they're actually fun to shoot. It might be a little loud with the pistol, because when you use the CB caps in these type of pistols, they're a little louder than the rifles. The rifles are just like an air rifle when you shoot these things. And this here is called a Flowbert 6mm. In other words, a 22 Flowbert. And you can see how tiny these things are. And these are used in the gallery guns. I have one gallery gun that's a Flowbert that's made in Germany, and these are what I use. But these are really, really expensive. I mean, they're available. You could get them on Gunbroker and stuff, but they want like $50–$60 for 100 of these, and they're just expensive to shoot, which I don't see why. I mean, come on. They're just little tiny things, But again, that's what they could charge because they're not really in abundance out there. So what I'm going to try to do, see, when you bring this back, even though the cylinder is still a little loose, I feel safe to shoot this with these. So I don't feel safe to shoot regular 22 shorts, which this could handle, not until I get the parts and sturdy it up a little bit more. I will be able to shoot the 22 shorts. So, and in my last video I did explain about this. I do have another video on it, that this side plate was made, I believe. That's why it's more shinier than the other brass. But, it works. Well, let's see if it works. So, alright, so what I'm going to do, as you see in the feed ramp here, I'm going to use the little Flowbert instead. So I'm going to put one Flowbert in here, like that. So I have that little tiny Flowbert, and I'm going to bring it back to where it goes. Oh, gotta cock it back. So that's so it is loaded with just one Flowbert, okay? So what we'll do is we'll come over here. Again, this is my first attempt to shoot this, so hopefully I don't get killed. So there is one in the chamber. Okay, so I'm gonna cock it back. Alright. Boom. See how loud that thing was? Now that was loud. That was loud. So, but it worked. It actually worked. And see that little tiny Flowbert 6mm? That actually made a really loud sound. And look at the hole it put into the ground. So, alright. So let's try this one. And I'm going to go over here because that kind of made a loud noise, and people, you know, with guns today, they see you with a gun, they would be like, oh, let's call the police. He's shooting a 22 Flowbert, an 1872 pistol. So, all right, let's see if I can load this thing. I don't know if I can load this thing here. And then what I'll do is, I'm doing it all with one hand. Okay, so I'm taking the Aquila Calibres. This is called a Calibri. I forgot to tell that in the beginning of the video. And what I'll do is I'm going to stick it in the one cylinder. Now, as you can see, the Calibri, let's see if I could get it focused on here. Hold on. Alright, the Calibri right there, you can see it almost comes to the end of the chamber. So that's kind of like a long, you know, like a long rifle. So I have one set Calibri in there. So let's see how that handles. Now, with those little tiny Flowberts, they actually made pretty good noise, you know. I mean, it was just like a little tiny thing. But now if you put those in a rifle, you wouldn't hear that at all. And I do have a couple videos with the rifle that I shot those. So let's test this out now with the Calibris, okay? So there's the Calibri. And then what I'm gonna do is go down on here, and I'm gonna do this. All right. Oh, now that didn't fire. Do you see that? So the Calibris do not work. Let's try it again. I'm gonna try it one more time. Oh, there we go. So there you go. That's the Calibris, and it's just like the sound of the Flowberts. So the Calibris and the Flowberts are almost the same, identical in sound of the pistols. Now, I don't have any other shells in there, so don't worry. I do have the one spent shell of the or the spent shell of the Flowbert right there, and then the Calibri is right here, which I just shot. So I don't want you guys freaking out that there's any more in here. But as you can see, it works. So if you had this, if you need this in a pinch, this would work. Let me focus it in. Now, the only thing is, if you filled this up with 7 shots, you'd have to rotate this manually, like this, see? You have to keep rotating after shot, after you did the first shot, and keep going. And again, it's not good for the safety lever, because you're pushing that down physically instead of this spring bringing it down, which brings it down automatic when you pull the hammer back. So, all right. So that was my first test out of this thing. So I didn't get killed. I didn't get any bullet shrapnel in my head or in my eyes or anything like that. So I feel confident on shooting this thing with the Calibris or the Flowbert 6mm. Works really well, but I do not feel confident on shooting it with a 22 short. That's one thing I won't do. Not until everything is fixed, which I kind of highly doubt I'm going to fix it, because I can't get the parts for one, and I can't get like a schematic parts list on this particular pistol, which would tell me how to, what parts, like what they look like, so I could either make them or have them made or whatever. So, and these things go for like, if this is 100% working, they go for like $375 up to like $700. But average is like $500, $600, which is a whole lot of money for this thing. I wouldn't give you, I wouldn't give you $100 for it, I mean, $100, yeah, because I only spent $50 on this, and that's semi-working, as you see. But if it was 100% working, I'd give you 150 tops. I mean, that's basically what it's worth. So there you go. You saw, I tested it. And if you ever come across one and you want to sell some parts off of it, if it doesn't work and it's like some of the internal parts, I'll buy them off you. All right. Later, be safe. Don't try this at home, kids, because I'm a little older than you guys, and I've been experienced with firearms, and I don't play around, but you got to test them. So sort of, I should have put it in a hole with a steel shield. That's the right way of doing it, because I used to have one of those. And then once you put it in the hole with the diameter of your hand and push it in a hole with a, say, a foot by foot steel shield, that's where you would be fine. That's a good testing point there, without testing it freely like I did on the ground. But I kind of did this, you know, as you saw, sort of. And you know, it's possible it could have, piece of bullet could have came back, hit this frame, and came back up through here and hit me in the head or whatever. But hey, we all take chances, you know what I'm saying? All right, see you later. Be safe.